How true is it that inflation is being caused mainly by corporate greed? Think about it. Corporations are always greedy. It's not as if they become less greedy during periods of lower inflation. They are greedy when inflation is low too. So obviously this is not a cause as inflation. The primary driver of inflation, especially recently, is deficit spending by the government. When the government engages in deficit spending, interest rate expectations rise, because that spending is being financed by treasury bonds. More deficit spending equals more treasury bonds equals higher supply of T-bills at the same level of demand. Therefore, those treasuries must pay a higher level of interest in order to attract investors. Higher interest rates equals higher inflation. There's more to it than that, but that's as short an explanation as you're likely to get on social media. No, corporate greed has always existed. That's too simplistic a take. Supply chain supply and demand is a big factor. In 2015, McDonald's stock was 97. Today, it's 316. So, is it your belief that the cost of Big Macs has just gone up because of the cost of food and labor, and that McDonald's profit margins have gone unchanged? Then why did their stock more than triple in 9 years if they aren't widening their profit margins? Target stock price was 51 in 2017 and now it's 157. Why is their stock price tripling in 7 years if they aren't raising their profit margins? Stocks record highs. Corporate profits record highs, yet they have to raise prices, which equals inflation, so they can compete. I didn't know the definition of competing means making more money than ever. Records profit sure as shit doesn't sound like it's necessary to raise prices to me. It is corporate FOMO. They see one company get away with it, so they all must do it. It's not wholly true, but it is quite significantly true. I recommend Jon Stewart's interview with Larry Summers for a speedy and clear explanation. https://u2.bet u3rg5n5uqzi equals 7jmhsimz1ch5dar5. It's zero true. That's not how inflation or pricing works. This is literally Econ 101, supply and demand stuff. Companies already charge the price where they maximize profit. Prices have gone up because market conditions related to the money supply changed, which caused that price to increase. No, it's because the money printer is going BRR. For fun and learning, buy yourself a $10 trillion Zimbabwe dollar note from eBay. I paid about USD10 for mine and the same amount in postage. There is only one group in Zimbabwe who could produce that note. At the risk of sounding too much like Milton Friedman, inflation is caused by the Reserve Bank printing too much money. It doesn't matter whether it's capitalist govt, socialist, communist, left-wing, right-wing, center, high-tech right-to-work economy, low-tech mandatory unionization. If you print too much money, the value of the unit goes down. Businesses have always been run greedy pricks. People have always been irresponsible spending money they don't have. There has always been serious shit going down in the Middle East. Unions have always been around. Migration has always existed. An enemy of the day has always existed. Inflation isn't caused by these people, it's caused by too much money. Certain people conspired to limit oil production, so everything went up in cost, but corporations that had to spend 10 more on delivery put prices up 25, and oil prices have settled a bit since, but prices don't drop. https. Certain people. It's mostly not. People love a scapegoat and they hate corporations, but it isn't accurate. Inflation was caused because 30% of the total money supply was created since 2020. But production didn't increase by the same amount, so more dollars are chasing a smaller number of goods, so you need more dollars to buy those goods. A lot of people erroneously believe corporate greed caused inflation because profits are typically stated in nominal terms, so everyone is posting record profits in nominal terms again, because the dollars are relatively less valuable. We also have record wages by that metric, but it doesn't follow the narrative, so it is mostly ignored. 100 true. Inflation is caused by increasing money supply relative to economic productivity. The price hikes we're seeing, which are being blamed on inflation, are not inflation. If they were, wages would rise at a similar rate. Inflation impacts all prices to the same degree, including the price of labor. If the year's inflation was 100, your pay would double. The price hikes we're seeing right now are not due to inflation. They are due to corporate greed, and to companies having the opportunity to blame their greed on inflation. You need to look at the inflation of the G20 countries. We're only a few points away from the lowest countries. Republicans are just pulling numbers out of their ass saying eggs are 190 more than they were 4 years ago. Please Google inflation G20 countries and see that we're about 11th on the list, and the lower countries are only a few points from us. All you have to know is that corporate profits and CEO pay are at an all-time high right now. and wages haven't gone up in 20 years. I'm a skeptic that this is a good explanation. My attributions are primarily monetary fiscal stimulus. Lol, why would you have trouble believing it? Prices are high, corporations are the ones deciding to raise the prices. They say it's inflation, but the prices have been raised higher than inflation is, and they are making record profits, not breaking even. So 100 absolutely corporate greed and not inflation. I just paid $5 for a regular coffee at Starbucks. Meanwhile, the CDO will make somewhere around 100 million this year with bonuses and whatnot, and he flies back and forth from his home in Southern California to Seattle to go to the office, all at company expense. But no, that has nothing to do with inflation. This isn't a good place to ask this, as the lay Redditor has certain biases. Here, HTTPS. Which is harder to believe? Corporate greed or a single head of a governing party? Of course it's greed. Look at the profits, yo, why?